Stephen A. Smith. I don't really like Stephen A. Smith because his political opinions are dog shit. And then Dean Winters. I think he's all right.
For the
So
first time, the straight shooter with yours
for some
truly,
reason
Mr.
they're
Dean
talking.
Withers. How are you, Dean? How's everything, man? Good to see you. How's everything?
If we do the whole thing about like we're playing it nice and not keeping the same energy, considering some of the bad opinions that both of them would agree from each other's personal perspective, if we don't actually like engage with the topic of conversation, then I'm not interested.
I'm having a great day out here in sunny Colorado that happens to be a little bit snowy today, but nonetheless, I'm enjoying myself. It's good to be on, and I appreciate you for inviting me to be here.
Man, please, the pleasure is all mine. I'm looking forward to.
Dean is growing in clout after all that Unfuck America tour drama. That was some bullshit, but he's doing his thing.
Learning something from you tonight, my man. You you grew up. Correct me if I'm wrong. You grew up in Grand Junction, Colorado, correct? It's an extremely conservative household. How did you become engaged in politics, and when did your perspective shift to a more liberal ideology?
I'll be honest, I don't care.
I hear what you're saying. I guess what I'm asking is, do you find yourself being on the left because you're against
researching and really have taken an initiative to learn more about not just the world we live in, but the government in which controls the policy that influences my life and the lives of those that I care. And to put in a nutshell, I think I'm on the left because reality has a left-leaning bias.
I hear what you're saying. I guess what I'm asking is, do you find yourself being on the left because you're against Donald Trump or because you genuinely feel what liberals feel? Policy-wise.
It's a mix of both. I'm on the left because I agree with how liberals feel. And I mean, a lot of the points that we see being thrown around about the necessary nature of things like universal health care, about caring for everybody, about how social programs, influence the drive to push our country forward compared to holding us back because poor people are lazy. On top of, the social issues that I care about, such as, the acceptance of everybody, regardless of your sexual orientation, race, or gender. But right now, I do spend a lot of my time talking about, the tyranny that we see downstream from the Trump administration. And honestly, today I feel like what it means to be on the left does include, these policy initiatives that we've been hearing people like Bernie Sanders talk about for years now. But it also includes, this very deep-rooted resentment for, the abuse of power that we are now all watching every day, either on our phone screens, on the TV, or maybe as you are, maybe some of your producers out there in DC.
Do you blame Trump when you're talking about the abuse of power? I shouldn't say do you blame Trump, because I know you do. But I'm talking about, is it just him? Is it primarily him? Or do you have more of a concern about those who, dare we say, are lacking a spine when it comes to confronting him about some of the things that he does? See, for me, I think more about that than him, because I believe that
Dean, do not agree with this. Please do not agree with this. Please do not agree with this. This is some bullshit. I blame everybody else more than the guy doing the actions that created a monolithic cult of personality behind that the entire MAGA party and all of his cabinet members fall in line to. I blame them more than him. Like, come on, Dean, have a spine. This is my thing. People just change their whole character. Have a spine. Keep the same energy. I don't give a fuck if Stephen A. Smith's famous. Challenge him, please challenge him.
Body in a position of power, unfortunately, throughout history, has shown that if they can wield it with impunity, they will do so. It's usually the checks and balances that we have in place as the United States of America, where you're checking cats and you're saying, you can't do that. We're not letting you get away with that. We saw more of that in the past. We certainly don't see enough of that now. That's where I look at when I'm looking at Congress and the Senate, obviously, when it comes to, the checks and balances that I believe.
Dean, please do not coward. Please.
Have been minimized, to say the least.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with you there. I think it, this equation definitely includes a condemnation of those who capitulate. But of course, that all starts with what they're capitulating to. I think that two things can be true at once. I think that the primary driver of a bunch of lawlessness, and as I'd call it, clearly authoritarian practices, is the Trump administration. I mean, every day something new comes out about how they are illegally redacting his name from the files 950,000 times, or how he wants to breach the articles of our Constitution to possibly federalize elections, or how the 14th Amendment is now meaningless. And, we don't care that in 1868 we passed this amendment that gave you a claim to birthright citizenship if you're born here. Now, if your parents are undocumented, guess what? We're going to take it away with no approval from Congress through a new amendment or no reinterpretation from SCOTUS on the basis of the 14th Amendment that already exists. But those who capitulate, they definitely embolden those proclivities. They embolden those behaviors because it absolutely tells Trump that he could get away with it. Trump is the same man today in 2026 that he was in 2017 during his first term, right? And for the majority of his first term, with the exclusion of January 6th and the lead up to that, we didn't see the same figure that we do now. We saw somebody who was newer to politics, didn't know how to select the right cabinet to find the right people that are willing to place him above the Constitution, so on and so forth. So I feel as if that capitulation from his cabinet and the capitulation from many people in Congress have definitely emboldened those behaviors that existed 10 years ago.
But we also have to kind of rewrite out back into the centermost thought of the conversation itself, that Donald Trump, as Dean said, as you said, chose the people now around him. He knew exactly who to choose, and this all starts and stops with him. He chose his cabinet members. He aligned with the people in Project 2025. And then, of course, a lot of the people in Congress, a lot of the Republicans did capitulate, but they had to capitulate because the man in charge that completely enamored the entire Republican Party, and it is now utilizing his executive power, not even mentioning the Supreme Court justices he chose as well for the Supreme Court. He is the one who is making this train go. So to alleviate him from blame was a stupid fucking thing to say, that Stephen A. Smith said. And I'm glad, even though Dean is being a little nice here, he is rerouting it that this all starts with Trump, which fair enough. I half clap.
Ago that we just didn't see to the same extent because of the lack of capitulation.
What about, as a liberal commentator, what about those on the right that make the argument that you kind of brought it on yourself, not you, the Democratic Party, when they talked about how you weaponized, the justice system in pursuing cases against him? You were excessive in doing.
Again, this is another one, Dean. Do not back down. Come on.
So, and as a result, him being back in office and engaging in what I personally called a vengeance tour, against a myriad of people, all of whom the John Boltons of the world, the Letitia James of the world, Jack Smiths of the world, and others, of course. What about the role that liberals are accused of playing in it? Because when they had power, they certainly did everything they could to try and undermine him, if not flat out throw him in jail for the rest of his life. What do you say to that?
Well, I mean, if wanting to hold a criminal accountable for their crimes is now something that the right is outcasting, labeling as bad, and using as justification for more crime, I would seriously doubt the speculative basis that those on the right have been screaming and shouting about law and order. Listen, the claim that we see from millions of Americans that the Biden-Harris administration somehow weaponized or abused the DOJ against Trump is baseless. It is just a form or a piece, a figment of this big lie propaganda that we've seen distributed by the Trump administration in an attempt to get larger populist support for their lawlessness. And a really good example of just how baseless it truly is what we've seen coming from the DOJ in the last year and a month with the Epstein files. I mean, there's a couple things from the Epstein files that we know makes Trump look bad. Okay, we know if it was present and publicly available before the 2020 election, would have inevitably led to less people voting for Trump. Could have even won Kamala Harris the election. But because the DOJ upheld such great respect for the independence of the DOJ from the Biden-Harris administration, because that's what the Biden-Harris administration upheld, they didn't dip their hand into those files and just release the ones that incriminated Trump because they respect because they respect the checks and balances, because they respect that separation. And anybody who would claim otherwise, I believe, is just disseminating the propaganda that is allowed for this lawlessness to occur.
What do you?
Really, really good point by Dean right here. And this is the thing. This is what annoys me about Stephen A. I wonder if he actually absorbed the information that he gave him there. I wonder if he's really engaging with it other than just asking questions. Because it seems like sometimes he tries to play this both sides things for Stephen A. and try to demonize the Democrats more than honestly they deserve. And then in a situation where he's clearly wrong and just playing into the overall narratives that the right is pushing, what does he say about what Dean just articulated, which is objectively true? The standard of the DOJ being an independent body that does things in the best interest of America, not the president, is a standard that's been existing for a very, very long time. I won't say always because, of course, America has a long history, but that was true under the Biden administration, Obama administration, so on, so on, so on, so on. This is a new phenomenon happening with Trump and what he's doing in particular. So what you just said has been completely, you didn't understand it, but it's been completely debunked by what Dean said. So I'm curious if Stephen A. is willing to engage with that. And I wonder if he really thinks about all the things that, went after Trump because of his actual criminal activity are wrong. I don't know. It feels like he was asking that questioning to see if Dean is on his side, and I just don't know what Stephen A. actually thinks, and it makes me very concerned. The both sides thing and the idea that he's going to run for president. Give me a break. Do you actually have a political thought there? I don't know.
Say about your party in terms of them losing the election. Why do you believe?
Because a lot of these things have been his questions have been really re-aimed at the Dems. That's why I'm so confused. It's all about what you say and what you don't say to understand the full context of what is going on. He asked the question on, oh, I don't really blame Trump, but I blame the people around him that's allowing him to do things. And then he looks at Congress. You know what Congress includes? Democrats. So is it about holding the Republicans accountable or the Democrats who allow this to happen accountable? Then he asked the question about, oh, what do you say about how the Dems went after Trump beforehand and used the DOJ against Trump? Again, this is more so aimed at the Dems without looking at the full picture on how Trump is using the DOJ and how it's beyond the standard. And there's no proof of these basic attacks by the Biden in particular. And then now he's asking the questions like the Dems lost. And I'm guessing he's going to ask, what did you guys do to lose the election? Everything he's framing in terms of his questions seems like it's slanted to use Dean to attack specific people on the Dems, and then he's going to latch onto that and push a very clear message. But when Dean provided very clear, substantive evidence in a logical framework on that's not the case, he just moves on to the next question. These type of you really got to pay attention to these type of conversations.
Kamala Harris and the Democrats lost in 2024.
I'd say the largest reason why Kamala Harris lost the 2024 election had a lot to do with people's, feelings directed towards the economy that didn't perform too well under the Biden-Harris administration, which of course would have been.
Oh my God, Dean! These are also correct answers. Maybe I didn't give Dean enough credit. Okay.
In my mind, predominantly caused by the pandemic. And a lot of people have this takeaway saying, well, the economy was really bad under Biden. It seems like the liberals are failing my bank account. They're making me stretch my money. So now I'm going to vote for this other guy that says, if I do vote for him, he's going to usher in this golden era economy. It's going to be great. And we're all going to win, which of course has been proven to not be true in the last year and a month. And then a couple other things that I'd say helped Trump win the 2024 election, my apologies, has to do with how late Biden stepped down and how Biden, Kamala Harris, only with a little bit over 120 days to throw together a presidential campaign to run against a man who's already spent the last 10 years of his life campaigning for that same office. And it's a combination of multiple factors, those being the two primary ones.
But wasn't that the part?
I completely agree with what Dean is saying. I do think those are the primary factors. There's other things we could attach to it that maybe affected certain fringes, but those are the primary ones where they just blame Biden for, especially the economy, even though it was more nuanced and it was probably due to COVID, definitely due to COVID. Now, here's what's about to happen. Stephen A. is going to attach on the Biden point so he can attack Democrats. Let's see how this manifests.
Party's fault? Couldn't they? I mean, if they got rid of him in July, couldn't they have gotten rid of him earlier? Couldn't they have got him to step away earlier? So again, there could have been a primary. You might listen. I don't want to say a better candidate because I don't think Kamala Harris ran a bad campaign. I thought her disastrous moment was on The View when they asked her, "Is there anything that you would change?" She's like, "No, I can't think of anything." I thought that was a disaster. I thought that was a huge mistake on her part. But for the most part, I didn't think she campaigned badly at all. I just thought she had to deal with the cards that was dealt to her. But many members of the party could have facilitated her getting in earlier. Are you of that belief, or am I stepping out of pocket by saying that?
See? Called it perfectly. I know exactly the entire framework. I understand how people think. And Stephen A's questioning and his readiness, he was like a cheetah in the wild. The moment Dean said something that he can use to attack Dems, he pounced on it. And this is not a referendum on the idea that you can't criticize Dems. I think you can criticize Dems. I'm fine with it. But you got to pay attention to something like this, in particular, if you do the both sides thing, and when you make the articulated point that you're blaming everybody else and not Trump, and you're asking questions that is trying to force a antagonistic response against Dems in particular, why are you not focusing on the party that's actually ruining the country right now? Why are you blaming this other party and not the current party that's ruining everything? It makes me think that Stephen A. is doing his best to tear down the Dems to provide himself as I'm the answer. That's what it seems like to me. Sorry, little rant. But if you want to criticize that Joe Biden should have stepped down earlier, that's fine. I think there's an ulterior motive with this, with what Stephen A is doing here.
Well, I'm not necessarily fully opposed to that belief because I think we all remember Biden saying that he was going to be a one-term transitionary president.
Apparently, that's not true. Apparently, he said that he would be a transitionary president, but he never said that he would be a one-term president. Apparently, from my understanding, is that anytime he was asked if he was going to run a second term, he always said that he might unless something changes. So that's a narrative. It's not proven. He never said he was going to be a one-term president. He did say he was going to be a transitionary president to a younger generation. Technically, you can be a transitionary president after your second term when you transition to a young Democrat as after you once you endorse them. So he never technically went back on his word. And from my understanding, if you want to go after Joe Biden for going back on his word, then I think when he said that he wouldn't pardon certain people, that's probably the time to criticize him.
Which, of course, when that narrative changed, he started running for a second term and dropped out. So I'm not opposed to that belief at all. I mean, I definitely do think that the Democratic Party has a lot to learn from the 2024 election, and I think that we are learning a lot from it. I mean, just look at the new figures that are popping up all across this country with the progressive likes of Zohran Mamdani in New York City to, people down in Texas like James Tallarico finally saying the truth and talking about the fact that billionaires are really destructive to the working class, and it's not undocumented immigrants or trans people, which is also, a little bit more progressive than the Democratic Party has been historically. I'm not opposed to those beliefs in the slightest.
Dean Withers right here with Stephen A. Straight shooter with Stephen A. Right now, I'm thinking about you because getting back to you personally, you rose to fame through your debates on Jubilee, if I remember correctly, a YouTube channel that hosts political and social debates with conservative figures like Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro, and for videos like, Liberal Teen versus 20 Trump supporters. What motivated you to create political content?
Yeah, I don't care about this question.
Constituents surrounding politics and why we vote for who we do. Okay. And I've seen the GOP primarily Trump, take advantage of this fact and construct harmful misinformation through the use of propaganda campaigns to convince around.
Good answer, though.
Do you consider yourself the liberal left version of the late Charlie Kirk?
So what the fuck are you talking about, Stephen A? What? That's the stupidest fucking question. Oh my god. Oh man, if I keep on being this antagonistic, if I ever get the opportunity to speak to these people, it's not going to be good. But I have to keep the same energy. Like when I don't like something, I just don't like it. Just come on.
And starting with them young, where they're still on the college campus, and that's not what I'm about. That's not what I do. I want people to be smarter. I don't want people to be sheep.
Yeah, you want people to be smarter. You don't want people to be sheep, and I totally believe you on that. But my question to you would be, how willing are you to disagree with a Democrat in Trump's position? And like you said,
why are all the questions aimed at Dems? Why are these questions all aimed at Dems in particular? You really got to question the ulterior motive here, man.
Yeah, Charlie Kirk very rarely disagreed with Trump. Did you disagree in an abundance with Biden?
There actually was a handful of things I had disagreements with Biden on. I mean, one big thing is I'm not the biggest fan of the state of Israel. And I think that it's time that we, stop bowing the knee to whatever Israel wants, whenever they want. And it's time that we stop seeing senators and congressmen and women winning elections, running on, I'm going to do what is ever in the best interests of the state of Israel, on top of a handful of other things too. I'd say right now, the fruits of the work that I and other more progressive voices that don't align 110% with the Biden-Harris administration or the Democratic Party have been putting in has a lot to do with immigration. I mean, 10 years ago, the notion of mass deportation maybe being wrong and mass amnesty, the idea of maybe giving some undocumented immigrants a pathway to residency or citizenship, making sense was radical. But I mean, anymore today, I'll have Trump supporters joining my stream and I'll explain to them, hey, listen, we would be able to reduce human rights violations. We'd be able to keep families together. We'd be able to grow grow our own prosperous economy even more than we already are if we just maybe made some of the undocumented.
I think mass amnesty is probably a good position.
The immigrants here, residents or citizens, and they're biting on it. They say, hey, Dean, that makes sense. And I think the only reason why we're seeing the social shift on certain policies or agendas is because of more progressive parties that have historically diverted from the DNC. And I think now the DNC is finally starting to respond pretty responsibly to that.
Don't agree there. In terms of now, I think they've always responded to progressive ideologies. I think the Biden administration responded a lot, especially with like social issues, trans, DEI, very much so. So I just don't think that is the reality. And I think that Dems have always listened to the left. So yeah, I just don't think that is the case. Now, the immigration point, I don't know. Was there a mass? The amnesty? I just don't think that bears into like the trends of what happened throughout society. Like the immigration was never a super big focus. I think COVID is a very unique case, and they were following the trend on what usually happens in terms of mass deportations. But for the most part, these deportations were always criminals from the Obama administration and the Biden administration. Where it's like, yeah, your asylum process, your asylum documentation, we denied it, you're getting kicked out. That's like what mostly happens. This is a very rare circumstances because of the mass influx because of the people waiting for the asylum process. So this is probably a unique case where Dems probably should concede on the fact of mass amnesty. I don't think this is like a popular thing that Dems were just against based off principle. It's just now we're in a situation where it probably just makes sense. So I'll push back on a few, some things that he's saying there, but generally
lifting more progressive voices.
I have not heard your positions on immigration. Could you remind my audience what that is?
Sure. So I mean, I think that immigration is one of those topics that can't really be discussed by anybody in like 30 seconds or less. And I think if anybody tells you they can discuss immigration in 30 seconds or less, they're just feeding you like likely person talking.
Greg Bonvino has been relieved of his duties as commander at large of Border Patrol. Yeah. Fuck Greg Bonvino. He sucks. All right.
With not making the legal means of entry into this country as attainable as they should be. And I think I could prove this because you'll hear people like Trump say that we have this crisis of undocumented entry, illegal immigrants, we need to stop it now. But you can't find me a single clip of that man standing in the podium with a mic in the last 10 years saying that we need to make the legal means of entry into this country easier. And maybe that would stop a lot of undocumented entry on its own. And that's just the border.
They don't want to do that. That's the problem, Dean. They don't want, it's not illegal immigration that's the problem. It's immigration that's the problem.
I mean, this conversation doesn't even scratch the surface about the undocumented immigrants that are already here. But what I can tell you in 30 seconds or less is that we probably shouldn't be deporting them with no due process to a center for terrorists in El Salvador, where they're then tortured from 9 p.m. till 6 a.m. I think there's a lot of better alternatives.
Fair enough, but what level of culpability do you throw towards the Democratic, the Democratic Party, particularly?
Again, let's aim at the Dems. When in doubt, Stephen A. aiming the guns at the Dems. Oh man, do not be fooled. What Stephen A is he's trying to destroy the Dem so he can become president. That's literally what's going on. I'm tired of pretending. Why should we make immigration easier? Because America is the land of opportunity, and that's what we've been built on: immigration and diversity of thought. So that's why.
The Biden administration, when they said, I don't know whether the accurate number is 12 million, 14 million, 15 million crossed the border illegally. What do you say to that? That people say that?
I think you're making that up. What do you mean they don't know? I think that's a narrative. I don't think that happened where it was like, oh, I don't know how many people. They probably said something a lot more concretely. You're probably making shit up.
That's not sustainable. That can't happen. That wouldn't happen in any other nation. Why should we let it happen in ours? What would be your response to that?
I'd give the Biden-Harris administration a good C- on immigration. I think that they're a lot better than a lot of people, specifically on the right, think.
Maybe I've been too harsh on Dean because I would give him the same grade. Maybe me and Dean agree more often than maybe my entire perception of Dean has been skewed because of his cucked out nature with the Unfuck America tour bullshit that happened. But in reality, from everything he's been saying is actually pretty reasonable. Maybe it's my fault. I'm racist. My apologies.
The talking points that I hear every day is, they opened the border or they just left the border open. They didn't really do anything about it. And I feel like this really overshadows their attempt to push a bipartisan border bill through the American Congress, drafted by Republican James Anstey. It's crazy that we were able to find this bipartisan agreement that not only would expedite the legal means of entry into this country by funding courts along our southern border billions and billions and billions of dollars, therefore naturally disincentivizing undocumented entry, but it also would have given the president this very special authority that the president's never had before to just completely shut the border down, once a certain amount of undocumented immigrants had crossed it on a rolling daily average for a week. And in response to, this bill being propped up by the American Congress, in response to Republicans and Democrats coming together for the first time in a long time on immigration policy, I truly think people overlook how significant that was. Donald Trump turned around and told Republicans to shoot it down. So, I think we saw a good attempt there by the Biden-Harris administration to do something.
I bet you Stephen A. Smith doesn't say jack shit about Donald Trump doing this. I bet you he doesn't say anything. Come on, let's do it.
But, of course, the reason why I'd give them a C- instead of an A+ is because, they probably could have used executive orders such as they did in their last year, a little bit earlier in their administration. But I mean, that is such a smaller and more insignificant critique of their administration compared to, once again, the talking points we see from the right saying they let all these criminal, illegal invader aliens into the country because they want them to vote in elections to ensure that Republicans never get power again.
Right. What do you think the Democratic Party is most?
Told you he didn't fucking answer the question, and of course he's gonna say, "Let's do another question to aim at Democrats." Yo, Stephen A is so predictable. I am a fucking genius, bro. I know how people think. I know how Stephen A thinks. I know what's going on right now. Of course, when in doubt. Hey, Donald Trump told these people to not pass this immigration bill. What about Democrats? Like, come on. Well, he talks a little bit like a cheap because I have a 1.25 speed, to be fair. So give him a little grace. His voice is probably a little bit deeper than that. So let's hear the other question that is aimed at the Dems and not the current administration. Come on, let's hear it.
Because they want them to vote in elections to ensure that Republicans never get power again.
Right. What do you think the Democratic Party is most strongest right now?
Oh, maybe he actually questioned that. Hold on.
From the right saying they let all these criminal, illegal invader aliens into the country because they want them to vote in elections to ensure that Republicans never get power again.
Right. What do you think the Democratic Party is most strongest right now?
Oh, a question that actually allows for some Democratic praise, or is it a question to hope that he doesn't answer and then criticize him? Well, I don't know. We'll see.
What do I think they're the most strongest?
Where do you think they're most? Where do you think they're most strongest right now?
I'd say the strongest point of the Democratic Party today in February of 2026 would be for pushing for accountability with the Epstein files. I'd say that they could do a lot more, which of course will probably always be said about politics, and we should, by the way. It's good to advocate for more progression. But
I agree.
I'd say what they're doing right now is strong. For the first time ever, I'm opening my phone and going on the Democrats' TikTok account, which they started, and I'm able to legitimately read how the president is refusing to release all the files, is breaking law, defying Congress. I'm able to see great Democrats like Jamie Raskin, like Rep. Rakana, and many others pressure Pam Bondi in this congressional hearing that was held with her a handful of days ago, maybe a week ago, exposing her as the fraud she is, having her pivot to talking about the economy when they're just simply trying to get her to look at the Epstein survivors. That is definitely the strongest point of the Democratic Party today.
You're 21 years of age. If you had to give Democratic leadership one piece of advice about reaching young men.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Shout out Dean. I've gained a lot of respect from Dean from this conversation. I have no respect for Stephen A. Smith. None. Zero. But Dean, a lot of respect. Shout out, boy. Shout out, my boy. Let's see what I'm curious. Anyone can go on the show and debate him. Comment section is cooked. For Stephen A, compare him to Charlie was sickening. Dean is so well spoken. It's refreshing to see someone of his caliber on the show. Stephen A took a couple of bites, but didn't want no smoke and called it a conversation. Yo, this was fun. I'm liking this. Stephen A took a couple. He did not want smoke with Dean Weathers. He did not want any smoke with Dean Weathers. That's facts, bro. No, Stephen A does not want to debate any. No, when it comes to politics, he's out of his depth. He would get fucking fried. Oh my goodness. There's no conversation. Yeah, because Stephen A couldn't engage. He just wanted to shit on Dems, and that's what he thought Dean was going to do. And then once he realized, oh shit, he actually has nuanced analysis of what's going on. Fuck, I can't compete. Stephen A pandered to his base because he's running for president. Hint what Smith didn't push back. Yo, this comment section is fucking cooking. Yes, that's exactly what happened. Zero pushback. You mean the bill that was proposed last year that normalized thousands of costs monthly? I don't know what this was yet, but hey, man, what is the reaction here?
Obama. When I listen to AOC talk, when I listen to people like James Tallarico talk, I haven't gotten since Obama. When I listen to AOC talk, there's just this feeling that I haven't gotten since Obama. When I listen to AOC talk, when I listen to people like James.
Oh, that's why they went crazy. He said when AOC he hasn't heard since Obama. Yeah, I think that's kind of crazy. But the only reason why I listen to OSC is because she's fucking gorgeous. So I'm attracted to intelligent, beautiful women, people. It is what it is. With that said, Obama's a different breed. I'm sorry. AOC not competing. My dog, it ain't happening. I'm there with Stephen A. But shout out Dean though. Eventually, I want to do a show where I could talk to people more often, maybe for like my open panels, but we got to keep on growing the base over here. I think people here for decades need to put their shit together and become citizens, pull their shit together. I mean, it's easier said than done. That's why mass amnesty is a very viable solution. A lot of the time, when it comes to becoming an American citizen, it takes forever. That's the issue. It just takes forever. And there's really nothing they can do because these courts are so backed up.